It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under to full forward. Mackey's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello and welcome to For the Love of the Game. Jason Bennett alongside Matty Donald and Hugo Higginbotham as we look back at week 10 of the season, round 9. We're going to start with William Buck Premier Men's in just a moment. Old Haileybury came from the clouds. The reigning premiers made a statement. The league leaders kept keeping on. A veteran snatched a huge haul out at the Snake Pit. Madness in Premier B, Matty. Chaos in Premier C as well. Holmesglen Under in Premier Men's. That was off the charts as well. What a weekend of footy.
Absolutely incredible. And for the fact that we're sort of now around about the halfway mark of the season for most of the competitions, we're still no closer to knowing exactly how it's all going to play out. It's a really exciting time to be involved in the competition. It's looking really good this year.
Hugo, welcome.
JB, great to be back again. You can't get rid of me.
Why would we want to? Hugo, you were out at the Snake Pit,
yes.
Saw James Stewart put on a clinic. More on that shortly. He was impressive.
It was amazing. It was great to be there to watch. You don't see bags like that anymore. It was old school, one out in the square almost. It was really good. But yeah, what a weekend of footy.
Brilliant. We're going to start at Princess Park. Old Haileybury pulled off a miraculous last gasp win over Caulfield Grammarians. The Fields had the breeze in the opening term. They kicked the opening 3 goals inside 11 minutes. Two late goals to Will Barry and James Magner reduced the Bloods' deficit back to 10 points at the first change. Second quarter ended up being really free-flowing and open. Haileybury kicked 7 goals to 4, 8 points up at half-time. Third quarter proved to be crucial. The Fields dominated territory with the breeze, 17 inside 50s to 7, but squandered their opportunity to build a match-winning lead. They kicked 2-8. To 1 behind in that third term and just 11 points at three-quarter time. Could have been a much bigger margin. Approaching the 26-minute mark of the final term, still Caulfield by 11 points. They looked like they were going to get the job done. Time was running out for the Bloods. Enter DURRAS SECCULL. Been outstanding all afternoon. He'd racked up intercept marks across half-back. Guy Martin sent out the message. DURRAS SECCULL joins us now. DURRAS, welcome.
Thank you, boys. Good to be here.
We've set the scene for you now. You've been back most of the afternoon. You're 11 points down late in the game. The message from Guy Martin, swing DURRAS forward.
Yeah, or it was maybe the message from DURRAS SECCULL to Guy Martin.
Oh, okay.
Forward, but,
fair enough.
I've got to give him the credit where it's due, mate. He's very tactical and good. And I was sort of waiting and looking to the bench for my time to go. And finally, I saw the pink bib come out and tell me to push forward from Marto. So, happy to play my role.
Talk us through the first 3.5 quarters. What did you make of the game as we've just sort of described it? The Fields had their opportunity to sort of put a bit of a gap in you and didn't, and that kept you guys alive, late in the last term.
Yeah, definitely. I think that they're a great opposition that we have a lot of respect for. Obviously, coming up in away grade this year, they just have a crack. They're an honest group, and to be honest with you, I think Marto put it perfectly after the game that I think they probably deserved to win that one, and we stole it off them. And as you mentioned there earlier, that third quarter especially, they had the chances to really put it to the sword and put it away. And unfortunately, they didn't, and we got our chance that we took.
And you did it by 26-minute mark. You were held in a marking contest about 40 metres out. You went back. You absolutely nailed that shot. Did that feel as good off the boot as it looked?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was certainly better than the second one because the second one felt like it was off my shin. But that's what I was thinking. Certainly when I went back for the second one, I thought if it's half as good as the first one, I think this might go close. But I suppose it was just it's lucky I've had my goal kicking woes in the past, so nice to see one sort of settle through like that.
And Caulfield found themselves, Hugo, in that awkward position. They were at 11 points up. That suddenly became 5 points up. You're just trying to almost kill the clock at this stage. There was an insufficient intent on the wing where a player under pressure just handballed it straight over the line to get it out of bounds. Free kick. Haileybury launched it long. Big pack 40 metres out. It was amazing. This big pack of players all went up, DURRAS, and then the dust settled and somehow you had the ball at the end of it. Talk us through your memory of that long ball coming in.
Oh, mate, your guess is as good as mine, to be honest. I couldn't believe it fell in my lap, but it was a bit of an interesting one because I obviously got the free kick for the earlier one you were just touching on, and when I went back to have a set shot, the runner ran out and said about 2.5 minutes to go. So when I ended up taking that mark not long afterwards, I sort of roughly knew that it'd be the last kick of the day. When it fell in my lap and I was looking up at the sky, I was like, well, this is every kid's dream, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be every kid's nightmare if I miss it.
Have you ever been in that position before? Is that the first time you've had this in your entire career?
First time.
Yeah,
First time
wow.
I've ever had that opportunity. And I obviously, you do some reflecting upon it. I reckon I was quite fortunate that I kicked it on the siren as opposed to, the siren going and
Yep.
then it sort of built up a bit more. So, it was something I'll never forget and such a special moment.
What went through your head as the siren did sound? Because on the coverage, on the footage, you can see the ball sails through. You guys all start to celebrate. You can hear the timekeeper's clock in the background expiring, the beep, 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 and then the siren goes. So we know it's about to happen before it happens. Then the siren sounds, and then the celebrations go to a whole nother level.
Definitely. So, I don't know. Like, I think you watch enough footy and whatnot, but I kicked the goal. I hadn't realised the siren had gone, so I've got some guys coming over to me that hadn't realised either, but trying to celebrate the goal and whatnot. I'm trying to do the noble thing and try and run back behind the footy. So that's why the sort of camera, when it pans, I'm already on the ground in the middle because I'm trying to go back and play as a man behind the ball. And then obviously I turn around as I'm about to do that and see everyone flooding onto the ground, a few boys running on. So it was at that moment I realised that the siren had gone and we'd won, and I got spear tackled to the ground by actually my Brady, my brother. So it was another tackle for him for the day, just to bring up the Premier Data stats, I reckon. He got me in the middle of the ground, then everyone obviously piled on from there.
That cliche, Hugo, Week's a long time in football. You spoke to him after the game last week. They've been belted by 91 points by St Kevin's, and it looked like the wheels might have been coming off.
Yes, I certainly did. He's one of my favourite players, Durras. There's always something happening around you, mate, on the footy field. You're great to call. But we did have a little chat after the St Kevin's game, and you wear your heart on your sleeve, and you were really flat after that one. So to, bounce back, get up again for a game the following week, and then to win in such fashion, the roller coaster of emotions, how is it?
Oh, mate, absolutely spot on. And yeah, I do remember that chat. And we've had a few good ones over the time. I know even after Scotch this year, it's really up and about. And then obviously after that St Kevin's loss, it was deflating. And it's really hard because I think that at that time, it does sort of feel like the wheels are falling off a bit and it's, crisis this and crisis that. But I mean, I've been around the club for 10 years now, and we've been in positions where we've been bad in B grade, and we've got relegated a few years from A. So I've been there before, and as you said, a week's a long time in footy. So it's all about, hey, let's reset. It's a fresh week. Let's have a good couple nights on the track, Tuesday, Thursday. Everyone get around each other and sort of build momentum from there. So I mean, to have that turnaround and do what we did. As I said earlier, I think it's the sun's a lot brighter and the birds are chirping and they sound great this week, this time, as in comparison to last week.
Guys, congratulations on the win. The opposition you came up against at the weekend, in a similar position to where you were 12 months ago, the new kids on the block trying to work their way up in Premier A, and you had such a good campaign last season. How have you found backing it up as both individually and as a team this year in 2026?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I see a lot of them in us in terms of, their hunt, their desire, their wants. And I think that goes such a long way in terms of success and no surprise, going into the week of them being 4-4. And then I think, just in terms of us, that we had such a good year last year. I think we were, a little bit down on ourselves to not be playing finals with our sort of run home was a bit poor. So then obviously this year we just, we lost a few guys, whether that be, Andre Stefanakis, who, goes to Sandy, Charlie Harrop, who's now playing at Sandy's, a few of those guys, a few injuries. We had a guy called Sam Holkahan, he's a good footballer, but he's been injured. Matthias Rose is injured. So just a bit of a different list, but you sort of look to guys like Caulfield for a little bit of inspiration at times because, they are this ambitious group that have a crack that are hard to play against. And I think regardless of who steps on the field, whatever that 22 looks like, as long as you play your role and have a crack, the rest will sort of take care of itself. So just trying to remember, what it looked like 12 months ago and why it may have been successful, regardless of, I suppose, the team on the park.
Now, you seem like a pretty honest guy, Darragh, so I know you'll give us a truthful answer here. You've already let it slip that you may have actually seen the goal back on the replay. Can you give us a number as to exactly how many times you might have watched it back?
Oh, mate, I tell you what, you can ask my fiance. She'll have the answer for you. Like every aspect of wherever she's in the house and I'm not near her, she can hear the siren going off or the cheer going, and she'll shout out. She goes, "You're watching it again, are you?"
Why not?
Why not? Exactly right. So, as I said, as it was asked before, it's never happened in my career before.
Exactly.
So, and it probably never happen again. So, I'm going to make sure while it's fresh in everyone's mind, I'll be sure to keep watching it. But I think in all seriousness, it's it's really special. It's a really cool moment. It means a lot to me to be able to do that. But just for a club that I love and for people that I love and my mates, just to see everyone's reactions when it does happen, I think is pretty special and pretty cool to me.
coming up now. It's an important turnaround for you guys. The fact that you've managed to sort of flip the script a little bit and had this great win coming up. Old Zabs, Old Scotch, Old Trinity, Uni Blues. That's your next month.
Yeah, yeah. It's the thing I really like about this year in footy, especially. It just obviously Zabs are flying. They're going really well. You know, so are St Kevin's and Brighton, etc. But I don't know. It just feels like anyone on their day can get anyone. It's a really even competition, and that's what I felt like for the whole of the year. So. As opposed to previous years when we've been in A grade, it sort of felt like the ladder's been split in two.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year it just feels really honest, and whoever can sort of show up on their day and play their brand of football the way they want to, typically walks away with the chockies. So yeah, obviously Zabs are going to be a tough task there, but we're really excited for it and keep that momentum going.
Darius, congratulations on the performance and the turnaround win. Best of luck for the road ahead. Thanks for your time, mate.
Thanks, boys. Take care.
So a wonderful escape, the great escape from old Haileybury. 2 goals in the last couple of minutes to DURRAS SECCULL. Guy Martin must have been thrilled how quickly things can turn.
He was. He said it was a game where both teams had momentum and could have gone either way, obviously, at the end. He said, though, aside from last week, that when they had that St Kevin's game where they had that big loss, they've been really competitive in all their other games, and a couple of those honourable losses, which I know probably give you some flashbacks, Hugo, but it was probably time that the footy gods smiled on the Bloods for a change and maybe got away with one in the end, having trailed so late in the match, and was really pleased for DURRAS to get a couple of goals late and be the match winner for his team in the end.
And the flip side for Caulfield, footy can be unforgiving, can't it, Hugo? 28 scoring shots to 19, but they didn't capitalise on their chances when they had them, and ultimately that came back to bite them. Paul Sadley must be a bit flat.
Yeah, Satch touched on that. The scoreline of 3-12 to 3-5. So there's going to be some goal kicking practice this week, he mentioned. But it's very complimentary of Haileybury's ability to intercept in the air. So DURRAS SECCULL was very good in that as well. And they are going to break down those last 3 minutes of being in front by 11 points, because you do need to know. You need to.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I know from personal experience, you're a little bit helpless in those situations. That's where the training takes over. So that you can look at that and build from that.
Yep. So for Caulfield, disappointing lost opportunity to extend their 3-game winning streak to 4 and build a bit of a buffer between them and the drop zone. It could have been a 3-game buffer that they build up at the halfway mark, which suddenly starts to look pretty good. They now face a challenging fortnight. We've talked about old Haileybury and what they've got in front of them. It's going to be tough. They've got old Brighton at Brighton and then old Zabs at home. So tough fortnight for Caulfield. So that's the thing, just one of those, they grab those 4 points. They don't grab them, and suddenly you've got that coming up in the next fortnight. But as we know with Sats' team, they'll have a crack every week, anyone, anywhere. We mentioned old Brighton, that's who they're playing next, and they provided a timely reminder of their capabilities. They snapped St Kevin's 6-game winning streak. Impressive performance at TH King. It was a powerful opening term from the champs. They racked up 18 inside 50s to 2, completely controlled the territory in the opening term. They finished the quarter with 12 shots to 1, 5-7 to a goal. They led by 31 points at the first break. Archie Manton with 3 goals in that opening term. He is a real difference maker at this level. The hosts St Kevin's then flipped the script in the second term. They used the conditions to their own advantage. They had 16 inside 50s to 4, 12 scoring shots to 2, but a bit like the Tunners in the opening term, didn't take full toll. They kicked 4-8 to 1-1. At least they got back within a kick at half-time. Third term, Brighton again a bit cleaner around goal, kicked 3 unanswered, got out to 21 points at the last change. In the end, 23 scoring shots apiece. The Tunners a little bit cleaner to get a 20-point win. They leapfrog St Kevin's into 3rd spot. Next up for old Brighton, a visit from Caulfield, as we mentioned, then a return bout with the team that ended their winning streak at Fortress Brighton. Uni Blacks, what a game that's going to be in a fortnight at Melbourne Uni leading into the bye. St Kevin's, well, they'll be looking to start a new winning streak. They'll host Old Trinity, then visit St Bernard's in an always tricky visit to the Snake Pit. So old Brighton with a timely reminder, Hugo. Marcel Bruin must have been very pleased with that performance.
Yes, he was. So a strong win, and they got a lot of things right, which you could see they're building. They're a great team. It was very complimentary of the defenders. You know, Scobbs mids got on top and a couple of multiple inside 50s. A couple of missed shots could have changed the way the game went. Also to Harry Hill's outstanding. I think we say this every week, but he's a real barometer for that team. Gives everything all the time. And Archie Manton and Hamish Dick work well up forward, which is good because Archie Manton's not there all the time. So you wonder about that cohesion factor, but that's obviously not an issue. And then a debutant as well, Marlo Hoffman. So a good week to debut.
Yeah, and he's a key defender as well. And he mentioned that he and Campbell Tweedy immediately created a bit of a chemistry down back, and that's really handy for Brighton to have that extra big body in the back half. From a St Kevin's perspective, Plugger obviously 6-game winning streak, disappointed with this one, I would imagine.
They'll have to restart. He gave credit to Old Brighton, who embraced the conditions and were better across the ground. Conceded it was a missed opportunity for his team, did Anthony Lynch. Still got a lot of growth that this group needs to undergo if they want to really challenge the likes of Old Brighton and Old Zaverians. The positive that he does take away from the game is that most of the areas where they didn't do well, and they're fixable. So there is an opportunity for St Kevin's to just be able to make a couple adjustments here and there, a couple of improvements, and then they can really launch a challenge on this year's premiership. But they've got to get to work and roll up their sleeves if they want to be able to fix those parts of their game.
Uni Blacks snapped their 3-game losing streak. They rose out of the drop zone with a vital win over Old Scotch at Melbourne Uni. It was All Blacks early. They dominated the clearances to take control. They kicked the first 7 goals of the game. And in the Scotch's first major came 14 minutes into the second term. The Blacks had led by 45 points by that stage, so they'd blown them away early. It was Sam Conway and Harry Broderick just dominating on the inside, giving them first use time after time. When the Cardinals got that first goal, they then surged off the back of it a little bit. James Milner added a second to the first one he kicked just a couple of minutes later, and another pair of goals in time on. Got them back to 27 points and gave a little bit of a sense that maybe Old Scotch could be back in the contest, but the early stages of the third term told the tale. Jack Drummond came up with the all-important first goal for the Blacks. He pounced on a ball and kicked a goal, and then that steadied the ship, and Matty Grocott added another one 6 minutes later. It was back out to 40 points. Credit to the Cardinals. They kicked they 3 of the first 4 goals in the last quarter, but the damage was done. Blacks back on the list of winners with a 28-point win, gets them a game clear of the Cardinals, who actually outscored the Blacks 7 goals to 5 from midway through that second quarter, but by that stage they were 45 points down and never really got close enough to provide a genuine threat. The Cards now face a critical pair of home games leading into the bye, the Snow Dogs and the Bloods. If they can win those, they can jump up out of the drop zone and start building some momentum, Hugo. But if they drop them, it suddenly starts to sound like a very long season and a bit of a nervy run home.
Starts to become above the shoulders, the pressure. You want to play games on their merits, not we have to win.
Yeah.
So that becomes something that that Natty will have to discuss with the group.
And the next 2 are winnable. The Snow Dogs and the
absolutely.
Bloods, they feel like 50-50 games right now between those 3 teams.
Absolutely. So it's a matter of getting your best more consistently. And we've seen a few of the Scotch games this year, and they haven't been 4-quarter performances, and we've seen that again on the weekend.
Yeah, yeah. So from a Mark Knapp perspective, what did he take away from that performance?
Just a disappointing performance. So the conditions they mentioned didn't play them well, and then that 31-point lead, so that scoreboard pressure that becomes above the shoulders, hard to get back. So they did their best, but could only pull it back. But he did have a massive shout-out for Harry Dixon, 18 years old, best on ground again. He's certainly a player of the future. And, I think he may play in the under-19 rep squad. I think he
should make it. He was our VAFA Rising Star nominee last week, and now he's turned in another best on-ground performance.
So it's one to watch for the future. But they're looking forward to getting back to Scotch College this weekend, which is always a bit of a fortress there. So it's they've just got to keep moving forward.
Yeah, from a Blacks perspective, it seems like we're saying this about every team. They've got a challenging fortnight as well. The always intense Uni Derby this week, which will be great, followed by a visit from the reigning champs, Old Brighton. Of course, remember last year they got on a bit of a run in the middle of the season last year and just started knocking teams over left, right and centre. Dale Barrow will be hoping that this is the start of that.
Yes, he'll have his fingers crossed. He thought they played the conditions really well at the weekend, that the players were prepared to put their snouts in the trough, as he put it, and the boys really drove that throughout the course of the day. Also was really happy with the ball use, considering the conditions too. They've worked hard at it, and they're starting to see the results for that now. So they'll keep working on that, but a couple of really good positives for Dale Barrow's men this week.
Speaking of the Uni teams, let's look at Uni Blues. You gentlemen were out at the Snake Pit on the weekend. The Blues made it 4 on the trot. They comfortably accounted for St Bernard's. Their twin towers of Grimley and Stewart kicked the only 3 goals of the opening term. Stewart kicked his second midway through time on. They got out to 18 points up at the first change. Stewart another couple more early in the second quarter. The bells were well and truly ringing for Steve Alessio. Stewart up to 4. The lead was out to 29 points. The Dogs did, in fairness, respond then, though, Hugo. Matthew Watson kicked a goal 18 minutes into the second term. Another to Ferg McNichol 90 seconds later, got it back to 16 points. And the game suddenly turned into a bit of a shootout. The goal started to flow.
Yeah, it did. They threw Ferg McNichol forward, who had a little stint on Stewart. I think he was one of his 5 opponents for the day. And that gave them an extra avenue to goal because they were struggling with that. Everything was coming in sort of long and high to Matthew Watson. There's not much you could do with that. But then once it opened up a little bit...
It was 6 goals in 11 minutes between the two teams.
And we'd earned that. It was a bit slow
It was a bit of a grind.
bit of a grind. But they sorted out their ball use through the middle of the ground. They weren't turning it over as much. Blues play very good press and zone and set up. So you have to have pinpoint accuracy to get through that. But they started to tidy that up, and they were looking good, the Dogs. But they just, too many behinds again for the day for them. They could not get any scoreboard pressure back on the Blues, and the Blues could just chip away at building that lead.
And Stewart kicked a couple more late in the term, so he had 4 for the quarter, 6 to half time, and it was back out to 28 points. So that work that the Snow Dogs did was kind of undone late.
Yeah, they got on a bit of a roll, as we sort of said, got the margin back to within 3 kicks. And I reckon at that time, Hugo, there were a couple of free kicks and 50-metre penalties, just as they were looking to really press home their advantage. And then they got goals to Uni Blues off the back of that, and that changed the momentum again.
So then it was back to an arm wrestle in the third term. So there was only a couple of goals kicked. Jeremy Goddard, Lockie Papley kicked a goal apiece for the teams, and they were the only goals kicked for the first 26 minutes of that quarter until, again, James Stewart popped up. He kicked 2 goals in 90 seconds late in the term, gave him 8 to three-quarter time, and suddenly it was out to 37 again. So that arm wrestle got broken, and it got broken Blues' way.
It was a momentum game, but the Snow Dogs couldn't capitalise when they had the momentum. They kicked a lot of points. They seemed to be kicking... There was a lot of hard shots, wasn't there, Matty? From the boundary, snaps, things like that, whereas all the Blue shots were sort of 25 metres out, virtually straight in front. And Stewart, he kicked 9-1, and the one he missed was a 30-metre, probably 40-degree angle, not too hard. He tried to kick it round the corner. Yep. Matty Donald nearly lost it. Lucky Petchy
cost him a 10.
Well, we said that all afternoon. He said if he ends up on 9 and he's got, we look back at that point, missed opportunity for him, but otherwise terrific.
They were very clinical though, weren't they? They ran out 43-point winners to extend their winning streak to 4 straight. They consolidate second spot. They're a game behind Zabs. They're a game clear of Old Brighton and Scob. Stewart, 16 disposals, 13 marks and 9 goals. What a fantastic performance.
Yeah, he's an amazingly straight kick. One thing that I noticed with the Blues on the weekend, they really liked the big ground. That space, their movement from their entries start at halfback. So they'll horseshoe around the other side, they'll pinpoint passes, and then they almost get to about the wing. And it's like someone flicks a switch and then they go extremely fast.
Yeah, I mean, that's the modern day footy. Most AFL teams are playing that way. And speaking of AFL, Taylor Duray had his best game for the Blues so far. I noticed 32 disposals, 9 marks, 10 rebound 50s.
Yeah, he was
where did he
very
play,
good.
Where did he previously play?
Hawthorn.
he was a Hawthorn. He may have had a stint at another club at some point along the way too. No, he was terrific. A great inclusion across the back line, a really calming influence. And the way they use the ball coming out of defence, Uni Blues, requires players who have good foot skills. And Duray was one of a number of players that had that. They're able to hit up pinpoint passes coming out of the fence and just pick their way from one end of the ground to the other with ease all afternoon.
So the stage now set for another compelling Uni Derby. It's going to be great. Both teams entering on the back of impressive wins. The Blacks would love nothing more than to upset the Blues apple cart and spoil their momentum. And Matty Smith's team obviously will be just as determined to keep them rolling all the way to the second bye. Speaking of Matty Smith, what did he have to say? Because his team is just humming along quite nicely at the moment, just almost under the radar if he can be sitting up there so high on the ladder.
A little bit. He said what Hugo sort of acknowledged earlier, that it was a bit of a scrappy game at times, a bit of a tough watch from time to time. He knew coming in that St Bernard's were a high handball team, so it was a big focus on really being able to stop that and put pressure around the ball, which he did, and that disrupted their use going inside 50 and their ability to move the ball, which set up a lot for the Uni Blues going the other way. They were able to generate some shots on goal in some really good areas. We did the numbers. They've kicked 28 goals, 11 in the last fortnight.
Yeah.
Uni was 14-5 against Old Brighton, now 14-6 again at the weekend, and that's why the conversion rate is so good, because they are having a lot of relatively simple shots at goal. Wasn't the prettiest game, but sometimes you just got to find a way to win the ugly ones, and they've done it again.
What did Steve Alessio say from a Snow Dog perspective?
Well, he acknowledged it's always going to be tough coming up against an informed Blues, and was going to be a challenge. So their contested ball was good. They did have some good passages, but on the back of pressure, especially in the third quarter. But he did touch on the ball use, costing themselves a turnover, and then that lack of discipline. There was 2 50-metre penalties that cost them goals when they had that momentum.
Yeah, they were surging.
So very tough. Then he acknowledged the game next week against Scotch. He said it's a mini final.
Well, that's it. These two are the equal bottom at the moment in the relegation zone, so the winner will kick a game clear.
Yes, I mean, I don't like to put those sort of pressures on the game, but that's the reality of it. It is a mini final for them, and but they're the experts of getting out of the relegation zone. Leave it to the last game, whatever they have to do. And Scotch probably in uncharted territory. So it's how you handle the mental pressure of that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating game. Tips coming up for that one a little later. The final game of the weekend in William Buck Premier Men's. Old Zabs, a 7th straight win overcoming a bit of an early flurry from Old Trinity at Daily Oval. When these two teams met in round 2, remember the Tees jumped Zabs early and pulled off one of the upsets of the year. And the early signs were a little bit similar. The hosts dominated territory, 21 inside 50s to 6 in the opening term. Kicked the first 3 goals of the game. Zabs were scoreless until Alex Spralia pulled one back at the 25-minute mark. Got it back to 12 points at the first break. And then the Zabs started to find their rhythm in that second term. And has so often been the case this year, They looked deadly once they went inside 50. Charlie McIsaac was the spearhead. He kicked 3 goals in that second term. They kicked 7-1 from 16 entries. And you compare that to Old Trinity, who kicked 1 goal 2 from 12 entries. Yeah. And that's what Zabs have got that other teams don't. If they get the supply, they can put it on the board quickly.
Well, they get the supply because they've got excellent ball use through the middle of the ground, and Marcus Stavrou back on the weekend. And it's no better ball user than him, so that's not a bad one to come in halfway through the season.
He came back and just had 19 touches and 5 tackles. Sam Fisher, working into his season as well, had 28 touches as well. So that efficiency, the Zabs got out to 13 points at quarter time. They were down, 13 points at quarter time. They were up by 22 by half time because they just rammed on those 7 goals in the second term. The disposal count evened up a bit in the third quarter. Both teams looked to control possession via uncontested marking, but it was Zabs' intercept game that proved the difference. They took 7 intercept marks for the quarter, kicked 3 goals to 1 from turnover, got out to 44 points, and by the final term, the game was pretty much complete. Their control was complete. They had the game as they wanted it. They kicked 3 goals to 2 in the last term. 47-point win. They sit 1 game clear on top of the table. From a Dan Donati perspective, had to overcome that little bit of a shaky start and just got rocked a little early by the Tees, and then they managed to get the game on their terms and throttle it.
Yes, no, he mentioned that him and the players were looking forward to getting out there to Bulleen, to the return clash. Remember that what happened last time when they played? Yep. And a bigger ground. So they're looking forward to a bigger ground because finals are played on bigger ground, so you want to test yourself on that. And look, he said the first quarter played out in pretty similar fashion as the last time they met, but by half-time they managed to get it back on their terms, I felt, and they were able to maintain pressure and ball use for the rest of the game. So they were certainly able to take away the 4 points, and he acknowledged again Stavrou and Fisher back and both looking good.
Yeah. From a Trinity perspective now, Matty, 4 losses in a row for them. So they've sort of slipped into the twilight zone in the middle of the ladder there. 2 games out of the top 4. 2 games above the drop zone. They're right in that middle patch where your season can go either way. It's sitting on a bit of a knife edge. But if they are to start bridging that gap upwards and start to press the top 4 again, it's got to be in the coming weeks. They've got St Kevin's, Uni Blues and Brighton in the next month with old Haileybury in there as well. I mean, the time is now for Trinity to start turning it around.
Yeah, they've got to pick up at least 1 or 2 in that stretch, and easier said than done, but if they do want to play finals, they've got to do it. In terms of what Donald McDonald thought of it, he was very encouraged by the start. Thought it was a really good start. They put some good passages of play, generated a lot of opportunities and entries inside 50, but couldn't capitalise on it, and at a 12-point lead at quarter time, probably deserved to be in front by a little more. And then when Zavs got their opportunities in the second term, we said they piled on 7 goals to 1, so that just shows the difference in the efficiency of the forward line. They are learning a lot about what it takes to be an A-grade club, and there aren't many better than Zav, so they got a really good look at what a top-level team looks like at the weekend. But if you've got aspirations of being successful, you've got to be able to emulate what those teams can do. So there's a lot of positives for the Tees to take away, but yeah, if they want to make finals, it's a big month coming up for them now.
Yeah, it's a crazy old season, and as DURRAS SECCULL mentioned to us earlier, it does feel like pretty much anyone can beat anyone on their day, which is exactly what you want from the competition. So at the halfway point, here is the ladder. Old Zabs on 32 points. They're 8-1. They're a game clear of Uni Blues on 28. Another game back to Brighton and St Kevin's on 24. That's your top 4. Old Zabs, Blues, Brighton, St Kevin's. Then it's a 2-game gap now. The top 4 have cleared out a little bit. Caulfield and Old Trinity on 16. A game further back to Blacks and Haileybury on 12. And then another game back to Scotch and St Bernard. So you think about old Haileybury, they're sitting on 12 points. They're 3 games out of the top 4, a game clear of the drop zone. There's sort of those teams now in the middle. Caulfield, Trinity, Blacks and Haileybury. They're the middle group that can either go up or can go down. You've got Scotch and Bernards at the moment. Their priority at the moment is just to get themselves out of that drop zone. And from a top 4 perspective now, the priority, Hugo, is just to keep doing what you're doing and keep the gap on the rest of the pack. And then you can work out who finishes where by the end of the season.
Yeah, no, very, very important game this weekend, the Blues-Blacks game. That's going to have a lot of ramifications for the ladder because the Blacks are nipping at the heels of Trinity there. And look, Trinity and Caulfield's percentage concerns me. It's probably in the lower part. If you want to be sort of maintaining that middle section, that middle sort of block of the ladder, your percentage wants to be bigger. So that indicates that probably, and we know Trinity have struggled to score a bit in the last few weeks with a few key outs. Yep. So that's concerning a bit for mine. And then, you know, it's interesting. That top 4, I think, for me, you made a bold prediction. I'll make a bold prediction. I think that's set, and it'll just be the makeup of how it falls, and that will be amongst when they play each other. Who's got the best availability? It'll be interesting, that one.
I've learnt my lesson from last year's bold predictions, saying things like Scotch can't possibly make it. They're 58 games out with only 58 to play. Yep. But somehow they did.
And the other thing is 4% is separating the gap between Caulfield, Old Trinity, Uni Blacks, and Old Haileybury. So a game and 4%. So there's a lot of capacity for that to change very quickly. And look at that Caulfield loss against Old Haileybury. If they held on in that one, they're a game outside the top 4 still, and we're probably not sitting here saying the top 4 is locked away because they're still within striking range of the Fields. It's a costly defeat for them in that regard.
Matty, you're our power rankings expert. Looking at the ladder there, would you say that Blacks are probably? I've got Blacks higher than where they're sitting at the moment.
So they're 7th at the moment at 3 and 6.
I think,
but most of their 6 losses have been very competitive losses.
Yeah,
they did beat Brighton as well.
You've been big on the UD Blacks playing better than what their record has suggested.
Well, let's see how they go this week against the Blues. They get a chance to show it, don't they?
Oh, I can't wait for this weekend. I think it's going to be fantastic. It's one of my favourite games of the year. It gets a cauldron atmosphere there. It's something that you don't even look at the ladder when coming into this one.
With you're a coach, Hugo. You'll know better than Jason.
Former.
With derbies,
Yes.
the notion of form going out the window, is that fact or fiction?
Oh, that's fact. That's fact. I guarantee you always have a rival. It can just be a rivalry as well. So there's one team that it doesn't matter where you are on the ladder. Something about it that they'll lift for you or you lift for them, and you know each other really well because it's you probably focus on your rivals more than your contemporaries because it doesn't matter if you're second and they're 8th or something like that. You always, because you don't want them to do well and you want to do well yourself. So so ladder goes out the window. Even form can go out the window. It's just something about, and players are funny. They rise for occasions, and it can be someone who's an unsuspecting one. Like someone might pop up and kick 4 for the Blues this weekend, and it's not Grimley and it's not Stewart. So you never know, but they're exciting.
And you'll see that game on KTV live and exclusive, also on SEN, our SEN match of the day with the gentleman here alongside me. It's going to be a ripper from 1:45 this Saturday. Well, if you thought Premier Men's was a bit crazy and unbelievably tight, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're going to talk Premier B next on For the Love of the Game. VAFA Media has risen to another level in 2026 with more live stream and radio coverage coming away every Saturday. Enjoy our award-winning VAFA SEN Match of the Day radio call on vafa.com.au and the SEN app from 1:45. Plus a host of Premier Men's matches and our Under-19 Premier Match of the Round streaming every week on Community TV. Along with more live and free matches from Premier Men's and Premier Women's streaming on vafa.com.au than ever before. And don't forget that every game from Premier Men's, Premier B, Premier C and Premier Women's can be enjoyed on demand in full every week at vafa.com.au. Saturdays are for the VAFA. Catch the action live on the VAFA website, Community TV and the SEN app. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. Well, the craziest competition in the VAFA just continues to get crazier. Premier B Men's is mad. And our reporter is being driven mad. Our resident tipster has been driven over the edge. Matty Donald, we love this competition.
Yeah.
Love it. Have for years. It is the most, as we mentioned every week, the Herald Sun ran that statistical analysis a few weeks ago. Premier B Men's, I think, was ranked 2nd in the whole of Melbourne's suburban football leagues as being the closest. And I reckon if you redid the numbers, it might even be closer again because after the weekend, we had some bizarre movement upon the ladder. One team went from 4th to 2nd despite losing. They lost and jumped 2 spots. Only 2 teams out of the entire 10 stayed where they were prior to the weekend. 3 of the top 4 teams lost. It was madness, a tipster's nightmare. Where do you want to start? Let's start with down the bottom of the ladder. The teams that were on the bottom aren't on the bottom anymore. Old Geelong.
That's probably the place to start, Jason, at Como Park. Yes, just when you think you've seen it all, you get a weekend like we did last in Prem B. And Old Geelong, one of 2 teams to climb out of the relegation zone at the weekend. Not just beating anyone, but they beat DURRAS SECCUL, who were in the top 4 heading into the weekend, beat them by 26 points. It was all set up in the first half. The OGs kicked 7 goals to 1 at the main break, and that's what eventually led them to winning 9-8-62 to 4-12-36. Tom Gorell was the star up forward again for the OGs. He has been all year. He kicked another 4 goals.
And that's great news because a couple of weeks ago, remember, he had that calf. They were worried it was going to be an Achilles problem and he was potentially going to miss quite a bit of footy. But fortunately, he's dodged a bullet there. And, yeah, I mean, he's exactly what they've needed. Hugo, they've been looking for someone up forward to be that spark for them. They know they've got some great midfielders. They've got the likes of Mickey Nichols, etc. Yep. They've had to remodel things with that Jack Sheridan in the midfield. Now they've got someone they can kick it to.
and it puts scoreboard pressure on the opposition. And we saw that all day. I mean, what did DLA kick? 412. So you're never going to win a game kicking 412. And that's a bit of a fortress there, Como Park. It is a hard ground to play at.
Just about the biggest ground in the VAFA. It's huge.
It's a complete circle being a cricket ground as well. So there's a lot of space there.
It's almost 2 cricket grounds. I think there's 2 pitches in there. That's
there
how big
is
it is.
actually,
Yeah, it's huge.
But scoreboard pressure is key.
And that was it. So 7-1 in the first half. Set it up from there. Nick Dixon, the Old Geelong coach, was really happy with the way that the team defended both ends of the ground. He thought the game style worked really well. The conditions were tough, but was really pleased with such an even performance across the board. Nick Highlander of D-La, he just pointed to that first half, 7-1. You know, you're always up against it when you start like that. They responded well after half-time, but they just left themselves with too much to do.
And the turnaround in Old Geelong, it sums up where Premier B's at right now. Old Geelong won 2 of their first 7 games and looked to be in all sorts of trouble. Last week they had that draw against Old Ivanhoe. They probably could have won. And then this week they do win. And suddenly you're out of the relegation zone. That's how quick it can be. And that's how quick you can end up back there the other way as well.
And for them who have one of the lower percentages in the competition, that draw now takes that out of the equation. At least for the time being. There'll probably be another one in a couple of weeks from now. But they're half a game clear of the relegation zone off the back of that. D-La, they move up into 3rd place off the back of a defeat.
Well, I think they were third. They were third. They're one of the 2 teams that were third and are third as everyone else around them got shuffled. The other team that we talked about just then that Ogs drew with last week, Old Ivanhoe, also, like Geelong, just seem to be starting to build a bit of momentum.
Well, of all the surprising results, this may well be the biggest shock of all. They made their way out of the relegation zone. A 94-point win over Williamstown.
What happened?
Well, it was accurate kicking in the end because it was a pretty cagey opening term, just 1 goal apiece at quarter time. But then they kicked 19 of the last 22 goals of the match. It was a complete dominance by the Hoers. 28-128, Hugo. I know you'll love that scoreline.
Yes.
4-10-34 Williamstown CYMS in the end. Have to check. I'm pretty sure that would be close to the biggest win in Prem B for the season, 94 points. There won't be many that have topped that.
Double the scoring shots too. Yeah. That's extraordinary.
It's a lot of ball retention then. Using the ball. That could be a form game, like the form line game that Geelong Ivanhoe won from the other week.
Yeah, they're both definitely on the rise, aren't they?
Yeah, and plenty of goals shared around. Lucas Agrotas kicked 5 goals. Tyson Nagel 4 for the Hoers. Will Smythe was the only multiple goal kicker for the Seaways. He kicked 2. Xavier Nash was really pleased for the players that they were able to string that result together off the back of the hard work that they've gone through over the last month. They got that draw last week against Old Geelong, and now they've picked up another win. So that's 6 points out of a possible 8 in the last fortnight for them. So we sort of talked about it last week. Things just starting to click together a little bit now for the Hoers, and they've got 1.5 wins in the last fortnight. It's going upwards for them.
It's exactly the same form line as Geelong. Win 2 of their first 7, look to be in all sorts of trouble and heading for relegation, then go draw, then go win. They've got Old Camberwell this week, Old Ivanhoe. That's going to be a fantastic game. Old Geelong, they've got Williamstown CYMS, so maybe a good time to get Willie, who knows. But things change fast in Prem B.
They do, but Ivanhoe are a very young team, so it might be a bit of a learning thing where they're starting to gel.
First-year coach as well.
First-year coach, so it's starting to click.
And Xavier Nash has mentioned that as well. He sort of said that, you know, he feels that the second half of the season is going to be better than the first because they've blooded a lot of young talent and they've got them through some pretty rough waters in the first half of the season, but it is really looking to cash in now in the back half of the year with the players having that experience now under their belts.
For all the craziness in Prem B, the one constant has been collegians, and they just keep getting it done week after week.
That's what the professionals do. They keep on keeping on. This was a top-of-the-table clash against Old Melburnians, and we've been sitting here all year wondering who are going to be the key challenges, the main challenges for Collegians. And Old Melburnians had put their hand up. They'd earned the right to challenge Collegians for that top spot. The Lions winning by 60 points at home at Harry Trott Oval. So that's the first v second. So Collegians still the team to beat. 13-13, 97 to 5-7, 37 in the end. They set the game up in the opening term. It felt like the Collegians really wanted to make a statement in that opening quarter. They kicked 5-6 to 1 goal and took a 29-point lead at the main break. And were never really threatened from thereafter. Josh Walker kicked 5 goals. Will Pockney with 4. Caleb Franks, he picked up 40 disposals. So just the stars shining for the Lions throughout. Now they're 4 games clear on top of the ladder, and Old Melburnians up to 4th spot on the ladder off the back of that. So a very dominant display indeed from Collegians once again.
Old Kerry, one of those teams it's been impossible to get a handle on. They won 3 out of 4, then they dropped 3 in a row, and then they faced Bowie on the weekend. Yeah,
and their performance was a bit reflective of their season as a whole. They had to come from behind to get the win. They trailed by 18 points at the main break. And they were behind for most of the afternoon. And in fact, scores were, in fact, they were trailing heading into time on in the final term in this one. And then they kicked 3 goals in a space of a matter of minutes. They slammed on 9 goals to 3 ultimately after half-time, winning 13-7, 85 to 10, 9, 69. Daniel Clark and Jed Rule each kicked 3 goals for the Panthers. Jed Rule was outstanding at both ends of the ground. Max Holt, he booted 4 goals for the visitors. And it snaps a 3-game losing run now for Carey, who, as you said, Jace, we've been struggling to get a bit of a read on. So it's an important 4 points for them to bank. Bo Morris, incredibly, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games. They fall into the relegation zone.
Yeah.
They've still got a percentage of over 100.
Well, I was just looking at them. They're 2-6 now, Hugo. They're sitting in 9th. But you look at their losses. They lost Collegians by 7 goals. Everybody's losing to Collegians by that amount. Since then, they lost by 7 points to Willie, 8 points to DLAR, 12 points to Old Camberwell, 2 points to Ajax, and 16 points to Old Carey in a game where they were in front. So they've been in every single game every week. Again, just highlighting how competitive it is, but you've just got to find a way to get over the line.
You'd be looking at that from a coaching point of view, saying, right, this is more than just an anomaly. There's something there. Are we not fit enough? There's something happening there that they can't seem to finish games off. So you'd be looking at that. You'd be going back to the drawing board. But you'd be looking back at those later in the year. You'd be thinking, geez, what are we doing? But,
they're sitting last at 2 or second last at 2 and 6. They're still only 2 games out of the top 4, though. That's the thing. That's the thing about Premier B. It keeps everyone still well and truly alive. And as we keep saying every week, there's going to be 2 teams at the end of the year dropping down to Premier C who are very, very unlucky, because there's going to be 2 very, very good Premier B teams that are going to drop down. But as we say, the ladder is absolute madness. We'll go through it from top to bottom in a moment. But OMs went from 2nd to 4th. Jackers from 4th to 2nd, even though they lost. Bowie from 5th to 9th. CY 7 to 10th. Camberwell 8 to 6th. Ivanhoe 10th to 7th. So they've all jumped multiple spots, all of those teams. The only 2 that stayed the same were Collegians and DLAR, because 3 of the top 4 lost. It's madness. Let's run through it from top to bottom. Where do we sit? At the halfway mark.
At the halfway mark of the season, we've got Collegians who are out in front still. 9 games, 9 wins. A percentage of 183. We say they're the team to beat, and with good reason. Ajax, after that loss, they move up to 2nd spot on the ladder. They've climbed 2 spots. Lockie Buzzard, I've never known a coach to be so upset moving 2 spots up
devastated.
The
They're up into the top 2.
He was ropeable. 5-4 record. They share that along with D. Lassalle and Old Melburnian. So the top 4 remains as it was last week, although the order is shuffled around.
And there's 4.3% between those 3 teams. That's it. Ajax, DLAR, and Old Melburnians. That's why the shuffle around. Ajax lose and actually increase 2 spots.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely incredible. And you feel like percentage is certainly going to be the difference between double chance and finals and certainly relegation as we work our way down. Old Carey now, that was an important win for them. They move up to 5th spot. They're level with Old Camberwell. There's a big percentage gap there between the 2 of them, but both sharing a 4-5 record. Old Ivanhoe and then Old Geelong are half a game behind them, so they've both got 3 wins, 5 defeats, and the draw, just 3%. Separating those 2, so it is very close. And then we move into our relegation zone. Bo Morris, they sit with a 3-6 record alongside Williamstown, CYMS, but there's a massive gap in percentage there, 26% separating those 2 teams. But each of them, critically, only sitting half a game outside or away from safety. So if they can get things ticking along, they can get themselves out of the bottom 2 very quickly indeed.
Does this affect your power rankings, Matty? Because it does tend to reflect the ladder positions.
No, I don't really think.
We need to do a power ranking on Matty's power rankings
Yes.
because it's just impossible.
No, it is. I mean, look, no shame in losing to Collegians for Old Melbourne.
We know one thing
Yeah.
at the halfway mark of Premier B. Collegians are playing finals. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all we know,
Yeah.
literally. Other than that, we do not know a thing about what's going to happen come September.
It could all change. The 4 that we've got there now, Ajax, DLAR and Old Melburnians, they could all fall out, as early as next week, depending on how results play out.
I've just had Collegians people everywhere go.
Are
you kidding me?
No, it'd be a bit different if I said that. You're saying
Yeah, that's
Jay, so
true.
it's
That's
absolutely fine. But no, I would still have Old Melburnians as the second best team in it, because there's no shame in losing to Collegians. And they've sort of, as I said, over the last month and a half, they've earned the right to be one of the main contenders. And based on the way the other teams around them played, I wouldn't change my power ranking. So whatever they were last week, however accurate or otherwise, it's going to stay the same for me.
Yeah, so you look at Old Melburnians, they've got Bowie this week, then they've got Old Camberwell, then Ajax, Old Geelong, D. Lassalle, Old Carey, Old Ivanhoe, Collegians in the second last round. That'll be an interesting game, and then Willie to finish. So it's a reasonable next sort of run, as reasonable as you can get in Premier B for Old Melburnians, because if they are legitimately a number 2 or number 3 contender, they can prove that in the coming weeks.
And I reckon they wouldn't mind another crack at Collegians at home with about a fortnight to go until the finals.
Yeah, a bit of a tune-up.
Yep.
Here at Revo Fitness Park, the newly named Revo Fitness Park, Elstonwick Park here, now known as Revo Fitness Park. Well done to Glenn Towers and the commercial team.
Excellent. But it's always good to have a look at the best, because you can go back to that. You can pick the game apart. You say, how are they doing it? Where are their strengths? And then you look for their weaknesses. Do they have any? I'm not sure.
Well, we said that about Ormond last year, didn't we? You can get all the way through to September and then things can change. That's it for Premier B. Absolute madness. After the break, some more madness from Premier C in a different way. That's next for the love of the game. Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now. Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk Premier C. And while Premier Men's and Premier B have been ridiculously tight and crazy, well, Premier C was crazy in its own way over the weekend. The tightest margin was 61 points. There were some absolute beltings across Premier C at the moment. This ladder's really starting to open up. We'll go through it with Hugo and Matty shortly. Here's the scores. We're going to start at Harry McDonald Oval, Old Peninsula versus Parkdale. Massive win for the Vultures. 24-17, 161. Defeated Old Peninsula 10-70 by 91 points. Hampton Rovers, big 98-point winners over Ormond. 21-14, 140. Defeated Ormond 6-6-42. Fitzroy kicked the sweep over the weekend. This scoreline's quite remarkable at Brunswick Street Oval. Fitzroy 27 goals, 25, 187. Defeated Glenira 1-8 by 179 points. Marcelin, it was Marcelin versus Mazenod. This was the tightest of the game, 61 points as it turned out. But Mazenod 14-11-95 defeated Marcelin 3-16-34. And then the final game in Premier C for the weekend, St Bede's Mentone Tigers on their merry way, 24-15, 159 defeated Pegs by 99 points, 9-6-60. Not the sign of a healthy competition at the moment, Hugo. What we do have, though, what it is a sign of is we've got the haves and the have-nots in the competition at the moment. You've got the top half and the bottom half. And unfortunately, as Matty runs us through the ladder in a moment, the top half played the bottom half on the weekend, and that showed the gap between the two groups at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're just wondering from the bottom half as well with the Tullamarine flu that's going around, is a little bit of an incentive going, well, we're not winning many games. So then this makes the problem worse because the top half is very strong. I mean, Fitzroy came down the double drop, so they're going straight back up, obviously, as you see.
You would think. But you would have said the same about Old Ivanhoe for a couple of years, right? And they haven't. So
true,
you never know. But, Matty, let's talk about the top half and the bottom half, because the top half, there is a clear delineation, and it's 5, which means the race for the top 4 is still well and truly alive.
Yeah, so there's almost 2 ladders now in this one ladder when you think of it like that. So Fitzroy is still 2 games clear, 9 games, 9 wins, and then 2 games behind them. Parkdale, Hampton Rovers, and Mazenod all sharing a 7-2 record. The gap percentage there is pretty significant. Parkdale with a percentage of over 200. Hampton Rovers 141. Mazenod 116.
Yeah, so effectively Parkdale are a game clear because of that percentage.
Yeah, that is a very, very big gap. And then in 5th at the moment, St Bede's Mentone with a 6-3 record. Then there's 3 games difference between 5th and 6th on the ladder at the moment. Pegs with a 3-6 record, percentage of 67. So the gap in percentages is as big as the win-loss record at this point. Marcelin and Glenira Old McKinnon, both 7th and 8th with 2-7 records, and then Ormond and Old Peninsula round out the ladder. They're both sitting on 1-8.
It is the beauty of relegation and promotion, though, Hugo. You get to this stage of the year, if we didn't have that system, as many suburban leagues don't have, the teams that are in the bottom 5 are already thinking about next year, going, well, we're not going to make finals this year, so, blokes start to go away on holidays or players start to drop off. You don't get the same sort of numbers at training. But for those teams in the bottom 5, the season's just as crucial as it is for those in the top 5 because you want to stay in Premier.
There's a lot to play for. Now, I still believe that the jump out of the divisions into Premier C is the biggest one.
Yeah, biggest jump.
So it's the biggest lift in standard, professionalism, speed of the game. So it's a massive jump, but it's hard. So you want to get up there and you want to try and stabilise and then build from there. You don't want to be in this constant relegation battle because it's inevitable. Eventually something will happen. So you really got to try and get out of that. There's still plenty of time for these guys. One thing that's interesting about the ladder, St Bede's have a massive percentage sitting in 5th at the moment.
Yeah.
So if they can pick up a game on someone, they'll jump automatically to 3rd, you would think, or they've got it's 30 or 40%.
Yeah, they're a game behind second spot. That's the reality, right? The 3 teams above them are all 1 game ahead. So we look at the games coming up in round 10 of Premier C. Old Peninsula take on Peg, so that's 2 teams in the bottom half going against each other. Hampton and St Bede's Mentone Tigers. So again, 2 teams that are up in that, the higher battle. Marcelin and Fitzroy, the Roys rolling along on top of the table. Mazenod and Glenira Old McKinnon, and then Parkdale versus Ormond. They're the 5 games for round 10 of Premier C. Let's talk men's divisional football now. We're going to start with Division 1 men's. They're obviously a week advanced. They played through the Adelaide bye. So they've played round 10 of their season. Obviously, they need to get their season finished a little early to get into finals a week earlier than everyone else from a ground rationalisation perspective. The results from round 10, Parkside 9-13-67 defeated Brunswick 5-9-39 by 28 points at Pitcher Park. UHSVU 10-8-68 defeated Old Yarra 8-8-56 by 12 points. St Mary's Salesian 16-15-111 defeated Monash Blues 9-13-67 by 44 points rather. Preston Bullants 20-13-133 defeated Oakley 7-10-52 by 81 points. And Q 16-8, great kicking, 104 defeated Paran 8-10-58 by 46 points. As we check the ladder there, it is a Preston Bullants on 40 points. They're 2 games clear. Parkside on 32. A game further back to Paran in third on 28. 2 teams on 24. Q in fourth, Oakley in fifth. A game back to St Mary's Salesians in sixth. A game and a half to Brunswick on 14. UHSVU on 10. Monash and Old Yarra round out the Division 1 table. After 10 rounds of football, let's talk Division 2, Matty.
We will, and we'll start at Elstonwick Park. Here, Elstonwick getting the job done over West Brunswick in that one. Big winners in this game. 19-14, 128 to 9-6-60. Powerhouse over North Brunswick, 12-11, 83 to 10-5, 65. The margin of that one significant. I'll get to why in just a minute. MHSOB were too good for Canterbury, 16-18, 114 to 14-10, 94. South Melbourne on the road against Aquinas at the College, 12-11, 83 to 9-11, 65. So an 18-point win there for South Melbourne. And then Whitefriars over Therry Penola, a big win here, 63 points the margin in the end, 16-13, 109 to 7-4, 46. And I was talking about the margins a second ago, and the reason it is significant is because it means we now have a new ladder leader. Whitefriars' win was sufficient enough to see them leapfrog Powerhouse into top spot. They've both got an 8-2 record, separated by 0.6%.
Wow.
It is very close indeed, the battle for the minor premiership there. 1 game behind them are Canterbury with a 7-3 record. Elstonwick and MHSOB are each a game behind them with a 6-4 record, percentage separating those 2 teams there. And then as we move back, there's a couple of games gap there. South Melbourne, West Brunswick and Therry Penola all sitting on 4 wins. And then another 2-game gap behind them. Aquinas with 2 wins and North Brunswick with a 1-9 record rounds out the Division 2 ladder.
So much like Division the Division 1 we were talking about, or Premier C rather, it's a 5-5 split again, isn't it? In Division 2, the top 5 teams, MHSOB, are outside on percentage. Then it's a 2-game gap back to South Melbourne in 6th spot. So that section started to open up a bit too.
It has, and I think Melbourne High were down quite significantly on the day and came home with a wet sail. So I think they've been building the last couple of weeks, so we want to watch in the next few weeks.
And a couple of games from Division 3 men's as well. This is a 5-team competition. Big winners, Wattle Park, 14-11-95, defeated Richmond Central 2-8-20 by 75 points. And then a thriller at Bill Woodfall. It was Albert Park, 8-15-63, defeated Latrobe University 8-9-57 by 1 straight kick. And the ladder there is Wattle Park, 2 games clear of Richmond in second, another 2 games back to Hawthorn, and then Latrobe and Albert Park on 4 points apiece. That wraps up our men's competition for week 10 of season 2026. When we return, up next, we'll talk VAFA Women's on For the Love of the Game.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms.
This is For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk VAFA Women's competition. As always, we'll start with our William Buck Premier Women's across the weekend. We've got a game coming up live on VAFA TV this weekend. We'll get to that one shortly. It's going to feature one of these teams. It's Old Geelong versus Q. Over the weekend, we start our score wrap-up at Glen Huntly Park, and it was Caulfield Grammarians, last year's minor premiers, with a big win over Geelong, 12-8-80, defeating the Ogs 2-2-14 by 66 points. Old Brighton and West Brunswick down at Brighton Beach Oval. It was the Tunners 5-7-37, defeating the Magpies 3-4-22, Old Brighton by 15 points. Another close one at Victoria Park in Q. Q 5-2-32, defeated St Kevin's 3-3-21, 11 points that margin. And then a handy win for Old Scotch down at Camberwell, 6-4-40, defeated Fitzroy 2 behinds. Westbourne Grammarians had the bye. So at the halfway point of season 2026, We've got two teams that are out in front by a couple of games. It is Caulfield Grammarians and Old Scotch, the two grand finalists from last year, both tied together on 28 points. 2 games back, 3 teams, West Brunswick, Fitzroy and Kew. So 5 in a 4 doesn't go. There's going to be a good race home to September for that top 4. Then a game further back is St Kevin's on 16. Another game back to Old Brighton and Old Geelong on 12. And then Westbourne bringing up the field on 4 points. As we talk Premier B, Matty.
Yeah, we will. Now, a lot of big margins this weekend. The closest one was here at Elstonwick Park. Old Melburnians 5-16-46, so it could have been even bigger in the end. 27-point win over Parkside, 3-1-19. Williamstown, CYMS over Old Zavarians at Fear on Reserve. Williamstown getting up 8-6-54 to 2-3-15. Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, far too good for Old Yarra Cobras in the end of Packer Park. 13-11, 89 to 3-1-19 the score. That one, so 70-point win for the Griffins. And then Beau Morris rounding things out. 10-7-67, they defeated Port Melbourne Chargers 4-6-30. And what this now means for the ladder is that Beau Morris still out in front. 9 games, 9 wins. Percentage of 244. Old Melburnians 2 games behind them with a 7-2 record. Then it's a big gap from second to third. 3 games the difference at this stage. Williamstown, Old Zavarians, Port Melbourne Chargers and Parkside all with a 4-5 record. 1 game behind them, Glen Ira, Old McKinnon 3-6. And then Old Yarra Cobras sitting last on the ladder with a 1-8 record.
So 1 game separates 3rd and 7th. In Premier B Women's. That's where the race is going to be this year, that race for 3rd spot and 4th spot. The top 2 have cleared out, Beau Morris and Old Melburnians at the moment. They're sitting on a comfortable lead, are nicely positioned at the midway point, but from then onwards, from Willie all the way down to Glen Ira, Old McKinnon, it is open season. Anything could happen.
Yeah, no, the race is on for finals at the halfway mark of the campaign. It's going to heat up only more as we get further on.
Let's talk Women's Divisional. We'll start with Division 1. Hugo?
At Ross Gregory, we had Powerhouse with a big win, 6-7-43, defeating Latrobe 2-2-14. And then at Marcelin College, we had Monash Blues actually getting up in a close one, 2-3-15 over Marcelin 2-1-13. And then at Scammell Reserve in Oakley, we had Whitefriars with some bad kicking, Matty, 2-8-20, defeating Oakley 1-2-8.
Bad kicking was good football.
Yes, it's good enough.
Got the job done. And then at Doncaster Reserve, we had Old Carey with a close one, 4-5-29, defeating Ormond 3-6-24. And as we take a look at the ladder, we've got Powerhouse out in front on 28 points. Then Marcelin, 28 points as well, so just separated by percentage there. Monash Blues back by half a game on 26 points, and then closely followed by Ormond on 24 points. And then we've got Whitefriars and Old Carey just outside, both with 3 wins. Then Oakley with 2.5 wins, and then Latrobe just with a single win.
Let's talk Division 2 Women's Footy. Tight one at Bren's Oval. It was UHSVU. 11 behinds, no goals. And they won the game, 1-1-7. They went goalless for the day. They kicked 11 behinds UHSVU to win by 4 points. Again, bad kicking's great football.
It's just when you think you've seen it all.
11 behinds and they win the game.
Do you think goal kicking practice this week?
Point kicking practice seems to be the way.
Yeah, that got the job done for them. I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, that's a first for me too. That's
11
incredible.
behinds to 1-1-7. UHSVU over Melbourne MCC by 4 points. De La Salle 2-8-20. Defeated Richmond Central 1-2-8 by 12 points. St Mary's Salesian 3-7-25. Good win over Beau Morris 1-7-13. And then Old Camberwell 3-9-27. Hampton Rovers kept goalless as well. They were 5 behinds. But yeah, quite remarkable. UHSBU 11 behinds to win the game. The ladder, Division 2, we have De La Salle 2 games clear sitting on top there on 32 points. Back to Old Camberwell on 24. 1 game back to the next 4 teams. So again, we're going to have a big race for 3rd and 4th, well, really 2nd all the way down to 6th. On 20, Beau Morris, St Mary's Salesian, Richmond Central and UHSVU. So that win really critical for them. That keeps them right in the mix for the top 4. 1 game back to MCC and then Hampton Rovers bringing up the field in Div 2 as we turn our attention to Div 3, Matty.
We do indeed, Jace. Parkdale Vultures over Old Yarra Cobras by 39 points to get us underway. 7-15, 57 to 3 straight 18. So good kicking again is not necessarily good
overrated.
Football. It's not needed. Old Haileybury 8-15, 63 over Caulfield Grammarians 1-1-7. And then the other match that took place, Hawthorn were too good for Paranka Legions. 8-10, 58. Paranka Legions are 2 blue lines, unable to score. The ladder, Parkdale and Old Haileybury are still vying for top spot with an 8-1 record. We're on percentage watch here with Parkdale, sitting at 595%. So it's creeping ever closer to parity, that one, unfortunately. Old Haileybury, 233% for them. Hawthorn, a game behind them. Their percentage is 229. Perang Collegians, 2 Blue Lions, even though they didn't score at the weekend, their percentage remains above 200. So a 6-3 record there. And then the 6-game or a 5-game gap rather between them and Caulfield Grammarians, who have just got 1 win to their name. Old Yarra Cobra still looking for their first win of 2026.
Division 4.
Division 4, we've got a tight one here. So, at Bill Woodfoot Oval, we had Aquinas 4-6-30 defeating Albert Park 1-2-8. And then at Bennett's Wood, we had the Muggers 4-4-28 defeating Wattle Park 2-5-17. And at Canterbury Sports Ground, we had Canterbury 3-5-23 defeating Fitzroy 2 behinds. And then at Greythorn Park, we had Mazenod 4-5-29 defeating Old Zavs 1-7-13.
Which leads us to the ladder, Hugo.
Interesting ladder, this one, Jace. So the first 4 teams, all equal top, all equal fourth, all on 24 points. So we've got Aquinas, Mazenod, Wattle Park, and the Muggers all separated by percentage. Just outside, we have Old Zavs, who are on 20 points, then followed by Albert Park 18, with Brunswick also on 18. Then Canterbury just behind on 16 points. And then we've got Fitzroy and North Brunswick both on 8 points. So an interesting one.
Wow, tight at the top in Div 4, isn't it?
Very much so.
It's going to be a great run home. Let's talk Division 5, women's. Tight one at Packer Park. It was West Brunswick 4-7-31 defeating Glenara Old McKinnon 3-8-26, just a 5-point margin there. Big win again for Preston, the league leaders, 6-14-50. The Bull Ants over Parkside, 5 behinds, 45-point win there. De La Salle 2-1-13 defeated Monash Blues, 3 behinds by 10 points. A win for Elstonwick at Elstonwick Park, number 2, 3-4-22, defeating South Melbourne 1-5-11. The Wicks by 11 points. And in the final game, a good win for Ormond, 10-5-65, defeated St Kevin's 2-3-15. So let's take a look at the ladder. We've got Preston Bull Ants on 28 points. They're half a game clear of St Kevin's on 26 and another half game back to Elstonwick on 24. So the top 3 teams separated by just 1 game. Then we have a little bit of a gap back to Parkside and West Brunswick on 16 points apiece. Another game further back to Ormond and South Melbourne on 12. Glenira, Old McKinnon on 8. Monash Blues and D-La on 4. So that is Division 5. That's going to be tight at the top as well. In fact, it seems to be a bit of a common theme at the moment through the women's divisions as we start to turn for home and the race for September. That's our VAFA women's competition for this week. After the break, we're going to talk under-19s with Cench and LACHIE MOIR, plus a special guest from Caulfield. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
The VAFA Rising Star Award recognises the competition's most talented young players. Each week, the VAFA Rising Star Committee receives nominations for 1 male and 1 female player aged 20 years or under who played no more than 7 senior games before this season. Our overall season winners will be declared the VAFA Rising Stars for 2026. So if your club has a young gun making their mark, nominate them now at media@vafa.com.au.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk Holmesglen Under 19 Premier as we welcome in Cench Footy, Dylan Humphries. Dill, it's been a fantastic season so far, but this weekend just took the cake.
Yeah, it's good to be here again. One of the craziest rounds of footy you ever see in Under 19.
3 1-point games and a 3-point game, just thrillers everywhere we looked.
Yeah, you couldn't script it, literally.
And there was a ripper at Caulfield. Caulfield had won 1 of their last 6 games coming in. That turned out to be a thriller as well.
Yep, Caulfield down by 28 points at three-quarter time. Clawed their way back, and RORY Upton with, I don't know if it was a mark or a free kick, but the vision starts when there's about 13 seconds to go on the clock and he's got the ball in his hands about 25, 30 metres out.
Well, let's find out. RORY Upton joins us now from Caulfield Grammarians. G'day, Rory.
G'day, guys. How are you?
Oh, I'm really well, mate. Hey, congratulations on how the game turned out. Talk us through it to this point. Cench mentioned you were 28 points down. You've won 1 of your last 6. At this stage, at the three-quarter time huddle, what's being said? What's the vibe amongst the group? You're playing, obviously, against Bo Morris down at Glen Huntly Park.
Yeah, well, I mean, three-quarter time, obviously, we were pretty disappointed to be down by about 5 goals. We hadn't really played up to our standards at that point. But there was actually a lot in the group. We knew that if we just sort of turned it over, fixed up a few skill errors we were making, that we could definitely win that game. We've probably been a bit disappointed with how we've been playing, but if we were able to turn that around, we were pretty confident we could win it, and we did. We went out there and we executed exactly what we wanted to do. We put pressure, we had repeat entries, and I don't know, we were just able to kick a few goals in the end and get the win, get over the line.
So how did the ball end up in your hands with 15 seconds to go?
Yeah, we kicked a goal like literally 30 seconds beforehand, and then we're able to win the centre clearance. And it was just a rush kick out of the defensive square for them, and just, a snap just curled to me, and I was able to mark it and, set myself up for a nice little set shot.
So where were you, Rory? How far out and at what sort of angle?
Well, it wasn't too bad of an angle, but I was about probably 35 or so out, just only a slight angle. I think it felt like it was a worse angle than it was. I think I was putting a bit of pressure on myself in the moment, because I was looking back at the video and it doesn't look like too bad of an angle, but it felt a lot worse.
Felt like the eye of a needle at the time.
Yeah.
Have you been in that position before?
Nah, never. That's first time. I mean, I didn't really kick too many goals, full stop, let alone get the opportunity to kick one after the siren. So,
sorry to interrupt. Would I be correct in saying that's your first VAFA goal?
Yeah, first VAFA goal ever. So I had a set shot in the third quarter actually and just missed everything. So was a bit nervous, to be honest, going in for that one, but just happy I was able to put it through.
So at what point did the siren sound? Did you have an inkling when you first marked that the siren was about to go, or you had no idea?
No, I knew it was pretty close, because we kicked 4 goals in like the last 5 minutes. So we knew we had to like get on with it and get it done. So I knew it was pretty close, but I took the mark and I sort of looked back at the scoreboard and saw there was 20 seconds left. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna like take this. Like, we don't really have time to look for another option. So I took it, like went back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go for this. So the siren didn't sound until I was at like the top of my run up. Either. So yeah, it was
No,
bit
Lockie,
of pressure, but.
Oh, sorry to interrupt there, Lockie. I was going to ask, because it sort of sounds like that that you were sort of thinking it through. And in that situation, some players, nothing's going through their heads, and other players, they'll be flooded with lots of different thoughts about what to do and what the situation of the game is. But sounds like from your perspective that you were sort of thinking through it quite logically, from when you took the mark to when you went in to kick for goal.
I mean, a little bit. I think when I took the mark, I knew I was going to kick it. But I think after that, just like it was a little bit of a blur, to be honest. Like, I didn't even know what I was thinking as I took it back. Like, all I remember thinking was like when I first kicked it, it started off left, and I was like, my heart just dropped a little bit. But then it came back, and then it was just went into a blur of the moment. So,
what were the emotions as the siren sounds? Obviously, the goal goes through. Teammates come from everywhere. What was the moment like?
Oh, it was pretty cool. Like, I was like pumped up again, just in like the blur of the moment. Like, I don't think I had the double fist come out, and just happy to get the win. Like, we've been really searching for one over the last couple of weeks, and just trying to get a few wins together at the end of the season, try and make a push for finals. So pretty happy to be able to come back from something like that.
And Hugo, as we're going to talk about shortly, it's such a tight competition. They've won one of their last 6. Yeah. They've come flying home and kicked 4 goals, as you mentioned, in like the last 5 or 6 minutes. To win like that, suddenly what that can do for a group is incredible. Yes,
Rory. So it was a great win, but momentum's key in footy, and you finished that game off with a massive amount of momentum. So what do you guys have to do to bring that one into that huge clash you've got this week against Old Brighton?
Yeah, for sure. I think we just got to sort of keep our focus on the positives from that game. Like, those last 5 minutes were electric, and sort of just forget about the rest of the game. This first 3 quarters, just put it out of our minds and think about how we played in that 4th quarter, and just try to play that way for 4 quarters this week against Old Brighton. And obviously, with a bunch of people from all clubs jetting overseas, like, anything can really happen. So they're a very good team, but we could definitely pull off the win and start to get our season rolling and string a few wins together.
Rory, is there any of your teammates that you want to shout out? Like, anyone having special seasons that deserves some praise on the pod?
Yeah, I reckon bloke that got selected for Big V, Harry Edwards, been unbelievable. He kicked the goal with about a minute and a half left to put it within a 1 goal there, and then he's just having an awesome season. And then a few of our midfield boys as well, cracking in. Henry Martino's been really good. Jake Haller and Oscar Perry. So yeah, a few boys having some really good seasons, and we just need to start getting some wins and make it all worth it.
Rory, congratulations on kicking the goal, getting the win, mate. Best of luck this week against Old Brighton. Thanks so much for your time on For the Love of the Game.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me.
Well, essentially, that Caulfield game, as crazy as it was one of just a handful of crazy games. This was an incredible round of football. 3 games by a point and a 3-pointer.
You couldn't ask for much more. There was only one team that let us down in the round, but
Yes, that's right.
yeah, unbelievable round of footy. Yeah.
Joining us is our Holmesglen Under 19 Premier Men's reporter, as always, LACHIE MOIR. LACHIE, this competition we keep talking about every week, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it does. That's right. Thanks for having me on again, boys. But yeah, no, it's crazy stuff. Heart and mouth sort of stuff on the weekend. So yeah, can't wait to chat through it.
Well, let's work through it now. We've just heard Rory talk us through the Caulfield win, which was a thriller, but it wasn't certainly, as I mentioned, the only thriller. Old Zabs managed to just get one over the top of Brighton, again, by the barest possible margin.
Yeah, they did. Good win for them at home against a very good side. They controlled much of the game, Old Xavier. They did have some inaccuracy issues, but which obviously did keep Brighton in the game. They could have put it to bed, but real wet, muddy conditions probably made the game a bit more contested. It's just unfortunately for Old Brighton, they couldn't really match Zabs' intensity early, and they were good after half time, but just couldn't quite claw the game back to a winning margin. And obviously Zabs get the 1-point win here. And yeah, look, Old Zabs are going really good at the moment, and look, Brighton still showed plenty despite losing. So yeah, just a really good win from Zabs there.
Zabs 9-16-70, defeating Old Brighton 10-9-69. So yeah, 25 scoring shots to 19, and they get the 1-point win at Stradbroke Park. Speaking of 1-point wins, it was the theme of the weekend. It happened at Mentone as well. St Bede's Mentone Tigers 10-7-67 defeated St Kevin's 9-12-66. Another example of the team that were a little bit more accurate, getting the chocolates.
Yeah, 100%. And this game sort of came down to the final seconds as well. So St Bede's Mentone, unfortunately, before the game, lost their ruckman to the flu. So they had to throw in a 17-year-old into the ruck, and he really stood up. Shout out to Shepherdson and Howe as well on top. They got through the middle and really dominated the game for them. And yeah, some really good goal kickers and, great sort of moments for St Bede's in this contest. And there was about 5 seconds remaining, and Rhett Fernando sort of channeled his inner World Cup goalkeeping inspirations and saved one over the goal line. So shout out to that. That probably saved the game for him. But yeah, just another absolute nail biter there.
Well, our resident Scotch whisperer is Cench, who's been on them from early on. What were they 0-5, Cench?
0-4, and now they're 5-4. So 5 on the trot. I reckon I've tipped them every week.
You have?
And maybe Lockie's tipped them once in the last 5 weeks.
It was Old Scotch 8-14-62 defeating Parkdale 9-7-61. Cench, this was the example of the opposite. The team that were inaccurate actually ended up managing to hang on and get the points.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Barin, who kicked a game winner for them last year. And one of his goals in that last quarter was crazy. So he's just known for the clutch moments and stood up again.
Another 1-point game, Lockie.
Yeah, just the story of the round again. Old Scotch have, ever since Cench's jumped on them, have turned around. But Parkdale got the jump early. They led by 3 goals at quarter time. So Old Scotch definitely had to do it the hard way. But, even being 14 points down at 3-quarter time, Parkdale were still on top. And then obviously in that last quarter, they really stood up, kicking 3 goals and getting over the top of them to win by a point. But yeah, very game effort from Parkdale, who are sort of on the downward side of the ladder, but really sort of played like a top side there. So full credit to them. But yeah, Old Scots just can't seem to be stopped at the moment.
So 3 1-point games, a 3-point game, and then a blowout at Waverley Oval. Uni Blues 14-9-93 defeating De La Salle 5-13-43 by 50 points. Big win for the Blues. They're starting to build a bit of momentum as well.
Yeah, they are. It was a real statement win from them. Sort of speaking to Coach Steve Boakes every week, he's sort of been full of praise with how they keep developing and how they keep, getting better. And I think it's sort of, they started to see their work sort of come to life there. Their ball movement was great, and they were really good on some of D-Lar's more dangerous players. They tagged them very effectively. And, more positive for the Uni Blues, Steve Boakes was saying that they've got players coming back from Europe trips, which will help bolster their team heading into this second half of the year. And on the flip side for De La Salle, I think Andy Otten was pretty blunt in his assessment of the game. They were just sort of outworked and credited the Uni Blues on how well they sort of brought the fight to the contest. So, Uni Blues starting to get things going. Really exciting stuff.
So, Cench, we're now at the halfway mark of the Holmesglen Under 19 Premier for the season. Here is the ladder. St Bede's sit 1 game clear on top. They're 7-2, 28 points. They're 1 game clear of Old Brighton, who were 1 game clear of St Kevin's, Old Scotch, Old Zabs and D-La. So the top 6 teams, all within 2 games of each other. St Kevin's, Old Scotch in the 4, Zabs and D-La on 20 points. Then it's a 6-point gap to the Blues, who are charging, as we said, Caulfield on 14 as well. A half game back to Parkdale, and then one game back to Beaumaris, who are on 8 points. So St Bede's, Old Brighton, St Kevin's, Old Scotch, Zabs and Delar at the moment. It looks to be a race in 6, but nothing to say the Blues can't and Caulfield can't get there either.
If Premier B men's didn't exist, we would be talking a lot more about this ladder right now.
It's really, really tight, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Lockie, at this stage, we're halfway through. What's your general gut feel? The top 4, well, as I say, the top 6 at the moment all locked together, really. St Kevin's, Old Scotch, Zabs and Delar separated only by percentage. If I had to put you on the spot and sort of say your power rankings and some halfway point predictions, what are you sort of thinking? What might we be seeing come September?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one. I'd say St Bede's Mentone would still be in the pole position for me. And then I'd probably have maybe St Kevin's from Old Brighton, then I'd put Old Scotch in there. But that's not discrediting Old Zabs as well. They are also flying. And then teams like, the top 3, if they all played tomorrow, I'm sure they'd be very close contests. But yeah, I'd probably say St Bede's Mentone at the moment have just sort of got the wins on the board and are playing very good footy. And I think they'd probably just be edging it at the moment.
Senchi?
I'd go St Kevin's number 1.
St Kevin's number 1?
Yeah. St Bede's 2. Scotch 3. Scotch is a bit like Collingwood a couple of years ago, where they just keep winning the close games. We need a bit of a statement, need a big win. And then 4, I will go Old Brad.
Okay, so that's at the halfway point. Cench on 29, Lockie on 22. That's our tips. It was an impossible round to tip, let's be honest. Cench, you got 3. Lockie, you got 1 for the weekend. As I mentioned, 3 games by 1 point, another by 3. It seemed like all the close games, Lockie, went against you.
Yeah, no good. I think I tipped Parkdale, didn't I, to beat Old Scotch. And, you were down there.
You were stiff.
Welcome to the club, Lockie.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Matty can definitely sympathise with you. Let's talk about the tips for round 10, under-19, Holmesglen under-19 Premier. We're going to start, Cench. You're in the lead, so you have the honour. It's Old Brighton versus Caulfield, 9:20 at Brighton Beach.
Well, I think I'm just going to play it safe for the rest of the year.
Oh, that's not the spirit.
Old Brighton.
Old Brighton for you. Who do you like, Lockie?
Yeah, going to go Old Brighton as well.
Our KTV game. Very interesting game all of a sudden, because both these teams, as we've just talked about, are in good form and probably better than where they look on the ladder right now. Uni Blues taking on Parkdale. It's at 11:40 at Crawford Oval, but it's live on KTV, part of our Uni Blues doubleheader. You've got Uni Blues Parkdale, the 19s game at 11:40. Straight into these gentlemen with the senior game between the Blues and the Blacks. It's going to be a fantastic day of footy on KTV from 11:40. Senchi, your honour. Uni Blues or Parkdale?
I'll go Vultures on the road.
Go the Vultures, righto. And what about you, Lockie?
I'll take Uni Blues at home. I think they're starting to really hum along, so I think they should get that one done.
Old Zabs and Delar 2 p.m. Stradbroke Park.
This is tough. I'll go Zabs.
Zabs for Senchi.
Sorry, Hugo.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll go Delar to bounce back, hopefully. They've been poor the last couple of weeks, but I reckon they might just be able to win one here.
What's the inside word? Have they got a big, like a pub crawl organised or something, Hugo, that they can get out on the Terps the night before? It seems to work for them.
We may need to organise something, maybe watch a game of the World Cup or something like that. No, but look, that game on the weekend, that was a bunch of, the majority of the DLR team are in Year 12, so 17-year-olds versus Uni Blues kids.
So they're building for the future.
Yeah, 17-year-olds versus 19-year-olds sort of thing, and that showed on the weekend. But when they do lose, they tend to lose poorly.
Yep.
But if they're close, then they're a chance of winning it. So.
Yep. So, Beaumaris versus St Kevin's, 2 p.m, William Street Reserve. Bowie or the Scob, who you've got ranked number 1 in the comp, Senchi?
Can't go Beaumaris here. St Kevin's for mine.
Lockie?
Yeah, St Kevin's as well.
And the final game of the weekend. Oh, this is a beauty from a tipping perspective. 2 p.m. at Scotch College. It's Old Scotch versus the ladder leaders, St Bede's Mentone Tigers.
I tell you what, if they win this week, the lid's off.
The lid is off.
The lid was off a month ago.
Old Scotch.
Old Scotch again. He's just doubling. He's like the bloke at the roulette table, isn't he? Just hit him again, double down to go again.
One team has 2 Eddie McCorkles and the other team doesn't.
That's true. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. 2-0 on the Eddie McCorkle front. Old Scotch for Senchi. Who do you like, Lockie?
Got to go St Bede's just to try and make a bit of ground up here. So
that's a good strategic tip.
Coming back a winner.
Yeah, lovely. Well, as I mentioned, our Holmesglen Under 19 Premier match of the round will be Uni Blues taking on Parkdale. You'll see that live on KTV from 11:40 this Saturday. Lockie, thanks for your time as always, mate. We'll chat to you next week.
Thanks, boys. See you soon.
Thanks, Lockie.
Are you thinking about pulling on the boots and having a kick in 2026? If so, we'd love to have you in the VAFA. Australia's largest senior footy competition has teams suited to all ages and experience, from under-19s to seniors. Log on to vafa.com.au, check out our club directory and find a club near you. This is for the love of the game. It is time for Cench Watch. And Cench, we were just talking about the scores a little earlier in the women's divisional games, and we got to Division 2 women's. UHS for you, 0-11-11, defeated MCC 1-1-7. So didn't kick a goal, won the game. From a seniors perspective this year, we go through every score on For the Love of the Game every week. Can you think of another time that a team has not kicked a goal and won a game?
That would have to be the first time, I think. Can properly go into it, but yeah, I haven't come across that before.
0-11-11.
Remarkable.
That is extraordinary, and it would knock off the all-time AFL VFL record.
Yeah, well, we had a look at this, and you've got to go all the way back to the first season ever, 1897. Essendon beat Melbourne in the round robin final series that year. They kicked 1 goal, 8 that day, and managed to get the win.
So no team's ever gone in AFL VFL senior history and not kicked a goal and won a game.
Never happened.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have happened too often in the VAFA or anywhere, really. It's extraordinary. 11 behinds to 1-1-7. Especially, look, I can understand it even if it was a dreadful day and neither team kicked a goal, and it was like 7 behinds to 5, but the team they beat actually kicked a goal, and they didn't. So just extraordinary. So maybe history making. Speaking of history making, what a segue. I should think about doing this for a living. De La Salle, bit of history for them over the weekend.
Yeah, bit of history. They had their first women's reserves win. They put a nice photo up on Instagram. Yeah, everyone seemed pretty happy, so a good occasion for them.
It is an important milestone in your footy clubs, things like that to celebrate, Hugo, because you bring a new program in, it takes some time to find its feet. It takes a lot of belief and a lot of patience to come in, because you don't necessarily just come in straight away and start winning games. You have to work really hard to get that. So when you do get it, you've got to celebrate it.
No, it's great for the players there, and you see a lot of times when they come in off a loss as well, that's deflating. It becomes sort of a run-of-the-mill, like, oh, we lost again. But for that, finally get that first win, the feeling amongst the group would have been sensational. And I imagine they would have celebrated that one quite heavily as well, and entitled to.
Yeah, rightly so. So well done to them, the De La Salle Women Reserves, their first ever win in history. Now, we've had some remarkable results over the weekend. We had a lot of tight games. We also had an incredible comeback that you spotted.
Yes, Canterbury and Melbourne High School.
In which section was this?
Division 1? 2. Division 2, sorry.
Facts matter, Senchi. Facts matter.
Yeah, sorry, I was a bit confused.
You're close.
So Canterbury kicked a behind at the 29-minute mark of the opening quarter to make it 47-4. We had someone from the VAFA out there, and apparently no wind at all. So
they were 43 points down at quarter time, was it?
Yep. Then even 22 minutes into the last quarter, Canterbury still led by 17 points, 94-77. From there, Melbourne High School proceeded to kick the next 6 goals to win by 20 points.
6 goals after, did you say the 22-minute mark of the last quarter?
Correct.
That's some time on.
That's extraordinary.
The vision's just gone up on VAFA socials, so go have a look at it. Quite remarkable.
What a win for Melbourne High School in the end. That's an incredible comeback from 47 points down. And then what did you say they were? 3 goals down at the 22-minute mark and still kick 6 after that.
Yeah.
That feels more like one of those that needs to be seen to be believed. So I'm definitely going to have a look at that after this.
Have a look at VAFA socials for that one. That's an incredible story. We've been talking all season and following the unbeaten teams. Where are we at with unbeaten at the moment?
So we had 12 last week going into this round of footy. All got through but one.
They all got through.
No,
someone lost. Who lost?
One. Fitzroy in Premier Women's Reserves. Guess who they lost to?
Old Scotch.
Correct.
So 12 becomes 11.
Yeah, correct. A couple of them had a bye. There might have been a forfeit somewhere. But yeah, they all got through.
So 12 became 11, roughly at the halfway mark of the season. It's still an extraordinary amount of teams that haven't dropped a game yet.
This probably shows the dominance of some divisions, some teams. But yeah, it'd be one to watch. Will they all go through? Will someone go through?
Yeah, let's wait and see. Young talent time.
Yes, it's young talent time at Ivanhoe. Might be my second favourite team in the VAFA. Called them a lock last week, by the way, and they went on to win by 94 points. So
that was a fair call by you.
Just to go through some of their young players. So Ryder Mantello, 21. He had 30 and 1 on the weekend. Tyson Nagel, of course, at St Kilda VFL. He had 20 and 4. Charlie Nash, Essendon VFL, I believe, 26 and 3. Rowan McKenzie's 20. He had 31 and 1. They have a young ruckman who's replaced Murkov, 19 years of age, 15 disposals, 28 hit-outs. He's played every game this year.
What's his name?
Jasper Hopkins. 3 more for you. Isaac Dugdale, 19 as well. He had 17 and 7 intercepts. Angus Watson's also 19. He had 15 and 10 intercepts. And then, of course, Charlie Opie, who didn't play, but he's averaging 22.5 and 95 ranking points this year.
Right, so this fills in the gap of what we were talking about earlier, Hugo, when we're saying old Ivanhoe have got a little bit of time. They've taken a bit of time. First-year coach starting to gel and put their team together. Well, now you hear the numbers and you can understand why, and you can think, wow, that's actually really exciting for the Hoas.
It's virtually an under-19s team, isn't
Yeah.
it? But every game you can get into a player early, it just builds that little bit of experience. And you get a lot of experience out of a loss as well, because you get the experience of going back through your own performance and thinking, where can I improve? How do I need to improve? And you see they're doing that. So they're getting the runs on the board now. It's exciting.
And if you want to be somewhere coming from the back of the peloton, it's Premier B, Matty. A couple of wins and suddenly you're right in the mix again.
Yeah, well, we saw it, didn't we? Both teams who entered last weekend in the relegation zone get a win and they climb out of it. It changed very quickly in Prem B.
Yeah, timing's everything. And maybe one to watch, team to watch is old Ivanhoe in Premier B, no doubt about that. Let's talk big bags. Thanks to Sharon, we had 2 double-figure hauls, which I've got to say, for this time of the year in June, especially when you look at how most of the grounds are, particularly around the middle of the grounds, there's a lot of glue pots, and the weather wasn't all that wonderful on the weekend. It was pretty windy. So to have 2 double-figure hauls is pretty good. Kicking 11 for the weekend is Lucas Farnback from Parkdale Thirds. It was his first Thirds game of the season. He's been playing res. He's dropped back to Thirds just to get a bit of touch. Booted a lazy 11. Touch acquired. Well done for you, Lucas. Mitch Brown, Parkdale Seniors, kicked 10. He's up to 45 for the year at the halfway mark. Cench, he's on track. He's on track for ton watch.
I hate to put my Joey Pignataro hat on. I actually saw him on Sunday, but I don't think ton watch is going to happen this year.
What are you talking about?
What's wrong with you,
40,
Cench?
Why are you jumping off?
45 after round 10. He's not really on
No,
track, is he?
after round 9.
Round 9, sorry.
He's at the halfway point.
finals.
And they've got finals as well.
You kicked 10 on the weekend. You only need another 5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I'd have this
You've
non-believer
changed.
rubbish.
You've changed. What's got into you? Why are you so pessimistic all of a sudden?
Joey got in my head.
There,
I
that's
think.
don't let Joe. Don't let the little man get in your head.
Yeah.
You can't do that. 9 for James Stewart on the weekend. You boys saw him in action. He's now got 39 for the season. Jai Pugsley, one of our favourites on the Holmesglen Under 19 Premier. He kicked 8. He's up to 34 for the year. Will Snooks from the Monash Seniors. He booted 7. He's up to 38 for the year, having a great year for Will. And Jack Helmet from Old Carey Reserves also kicked 7. He's got 24 for the season. So 11 for Lucas Farnback, 10 for Mitch Brown, 9 for James Stewart, 8 for Jai Pugsley, 7 each for Will Snooks and Jack Helmet. 4 players kicked 6 on the weekend as well. Ton watch, thanks to Sharon. Mitch Brown's 10 goals has put him back in front. He sits now on 45. He's 2 goals clear of Luca DeLello from MHSOB Seniors in Division 2. Luca kicked 5 on the weekend, so he's on 43. Brown 45, DeLello 43. Another 2 goals further back is Patrick Carricker from Theri Panola. He's on 41. 1 goal further back to Charlie McIsaac, who booted 4. He's up to 40. James Stewart with his 9 is now 39. So 1 goal the difference between McIsaac and Stewart in the race for the goal kicking in Premier Men's. McIsaac on 40, Stewart on 39.
It's just another layer to add to this incredible season that we're having, that we've got a bit of a race for the leading goal kicking in the VAFA.
Will Hart also on 39. He kicked 4 on the weekend for Old Carey under 19. 7 for Will Snooks, as I mentioned, from Monash Blues has elevated him up into the mix. He's on 38. And Rogan Kitts from Oakley Seniors kicked 1. He's also on 38. So the top 8 goal kickers separated by just 7 goals. Mitch Brown on 45, DeLello 43, Carricker 41, and McIsaac on 40. All into the 40s at round about the midway point of the season. In the VAFA Women's, Geordie Mifsud kicked 3. She's hit the front. She's on 22. 1 goal clear of Isabella Geetzman from Ormond and Asher Price from Melbourne Uni. They're both on 21. 1 goal further back to Tessa Bowden from Hawthorn, and then another goal further back on 19, Georgia Harris and Mia Cowan. So the top 6 women's players separated by just 3 goals. Geordie Mifsud in front now on 22. Well, it is tips time. We've already done our under-19s tips. Cench sitting on a 7-tip lead over Lachie. No Braden May this week, but he has given us his tips for the weekend. Interested in how you did last week, Matty?
A little curious. I reckon
7
I
out
lost
of 14 for you. Braden picked 9 out of 14. So his lead now over you is 10.
Okay.
88 to 78. So you've got a bit of work to do. But it's Braden's honour because he is in front. So I'll give you Braden's tip, and then you can choose whether to echo it and mirror it rather, or go a different way. We're going to start with Premier Women's. Westbourne versus Caulfield, 10 a.m. Andrew Park. Braden's gone Caulfield.
I've also gone Caulfield for that one, Jace.
Old Scotch, West Brunswick, 11:40 at Scotch College on the main oval. Braden's gone with Scotch.
Yeah, I think been spending a bit too much time with Dylan lately. I've also gone Old Scotch here.
VAFA TV game. Tune in this one at 12:55 on Saturday from Como Park. Interesting game, this one. Old Geelong versus Q. Braden's gone with Q.
Yeah, I've gone with Q too.
And the final game of Premier Women's for round 10. St Kevin's versus Old Brighton. 1:45 down at St Kevin's College. And Braden's gone for the home team, St Kevin's.
I'm going to go Old Brighton here. Got to make ground somehow. I'm going to tip Old Brighton.
Fitzroy have the bye. That is Premier Women's for round 10. Let's talk Premier B. We'll get Hugo and Cench's tips as well. Old Camberwell versus Old Ivanhoe. Braden's gone Old Ivanhoe.
Yeah, that was a clinical performance from the Hoers last week, and I'm tipping them again here.
Okay, even they can. Okay, right. So you're on the believing that they're on the charge, Old Ivanhoe.
Yeah,
they're on the rise. Hugo.
I'll have Ivanhoe as well, just on the back of Cench's great information there about all their youth.
Cench?
Yeah, lock of the week again, Ivanhoe.
Lock of the week?
Lock of the week?
Yeah, first up.
Wow, so we've got a bit of love going for Old Scotch and Old Ivanhoe now for Cench. De La Salle versus Collegians, first versus third, the only two teams that didn't move on the weekend. Braden's gone Collegians.
Yeah, it's hard to tip anyone against Collegians at the moment.
Hugo, could De La be the ones to unlock the mystery?
They could. I doubt it. They probably won't. But no, I will. I'll go De La. I'll say they can.
All right.
Yep.
Senchi?
Yeah, after losing to Old Geelong, you can't really tip De La, so Collegians.
They can bounce back.
Collegians for you.
Look at Haileybury.
Speaking of Old Geelong, they head over the bridge to take on Willie C. Wise. Braden's gone with the Ogs.
I've gone different here. I've gone Williamstown. Contesoglu and his men have got to bounce back. And a big opportunity for them to do that at home. This is a proper 8-point game.
Yeah, this is a massive game. Hugo?
No, I think Geelong's form will hold up and they'll get the win.
Yeah, Williamstown for me.
Willie as well. So that one's a split. That's an interesting game. 2-2. Bo Morris and OMs. Braden's gone for Bowie.
I've gone, and that doesn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Bo Morris get up with this one. But I said Old Melburnians. I've still got them as the second best team, and that's not changed. I'm going to tip them here.
Hugo?
Yeah, I think Melburnians will bounce back.
Senchi?
Yep, same for me.
Old Melburnians across the board except for Braden. And the final game of Premier B for round 10. Old Carey versus Ajax. Interesting. We're just talking about Old Carey maybe turning their season around. The Jackers have been great all year. Braden's gone for the Panthers.
Yep, I've gone Panthers too.
Yeah, I'm a big rap for Old Carey. They're my quiet achievers in this division, so I'll be sticking with them.
And Old Carey for me as well.
Across the board, Old Carey over the Jackers. And that leads us to William Buck Premier Men's round 10 action this Saturday. And we start at Melbourne Uni with one of the games of the year. Uni Blues versus Uni Blacks. Live from 1:45, our SEN Match of the Day call team on SEN. You can also watch the game live and exclusive on KTV as a simulcast. Braden's gone for the Blue Boys.
Yeah, I'm going Uni Blues too. Always a special occasion, the University Derby. And the Blues have had a few games this year where they've sort of had to prove that we can sort of rely on them. And this is another big test for them, but I'm backing them to get the job done here.
I'm going to go to Blacks this weekend. I just think the Blues have been up for a long time, so the Blacks are just building. And as I said, you don't take the ladder into account in this one. It's a real derby, so I'll go the Blacks.
Blues for me.
Blues 3-1. Old Scotch versus St Bernard's. You'll see this game live on VAFA TV from 1:55 down at Camberwell. The two teams currently sitting in the relegation zone. Massive game. Winner kicks a game clear. Braden's gone for the Cardinals.
This is a venue game for me. If this was at the Snake Pit, I think I'd be going St Bernard's, but I'm going to tip Old Scotch.
It's going to be a very close game, this one. Two differing styles, but I think home ground advantage, like Matty said, so I'll go Scotch as well.
Senchi?
Old Scotch.
Never in doubt, was it really?
Did we ask?
Old Xavier versus Old Haileybury. Another game you can see live on VAFA TV from 1:55 from Toorak Park. Braden's going with the Zabs.
Yeah, Old Zabs for this one too.
Yes, Zabs for me.
Yeah, Zabs.
Could Haileybury continue their bounce back? Is this the week that they pull off a bit of an upset? Old Brighton versus Caulfield down at Fortress Brighton. Braden's gone with the Tunners.
Yeah, they taught us a bit of a lesson, the Tunners last week, not to doubt them. I'm going to tip them again here.
Yeah, Tunners for mine.
Caulfield.
Caulfield with the upset down at Brighton.
Yeah.
Based on?
Just assuming Felix Flockhart's not back, Carr's not back, and I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Caulfield will be hungry after that.
Would that
loss
top
on the weekend.
Old Trinity's upset over Zabs as the upset of the year if Caulfield get up down there?
Ooh, it'd be close, wouldn't it?
It is fourth against.
Would be close.
Third against fifth on the weekend.
Stand at the Fortress Brighton.
Yeah.
They have lost a
good
couple
performance.
there this year, haven't they?
They've lost one. Yep.
Yeah.
St Kevin's versus Old Trinity is the final game of the weekend at St Kevin's College, and Braden's gone for Scob.
Yeah, Scob to bounce back here.
Yeah, I'll have Scob as well.
Yeah, Scob.
Well, if this weekend of football is anything like last weekend of football, we are in for another absolute screamer with upsets, tight games, comebacks, record margins, history in the making. It's all ahead of us. Big hauls as well. It was a wonderful weekend of footy. Thanks so much for joining us to relive it. We look forward to next week, and we'll catch you again for the love of the game.